Good evening, everyone. Ankit here, and you're watching the Indian Express analysis, which goes live every day at 4 p.m. on StudyIQ IS English channel. Today is 17th of May, and we are going to discuss important news and articles which I have picked up from the Indian Express newspaper. Now, I conducted a survey on the group asking whether I should cover important editorials also not, because now only the next weekend is prelims and after that we'll get into mains mode. So understanding the important articles from the newspaper, particularly the editorial section, not the op-ed, editorial section, gets you the argument that you are expected to write in your answers. So we'll start off with the Mukurthi National Park. This news I've picked up from yesterday's newspaper, actually, because there were so many articles yesterday, I missed out on this one. And this is an important protected area located in Tamil Nadu. So we are going to understand Mukurthi National Park, why it is in news, what are the flagship species in this particular protected area. So this is important from GS paper 3 perspective, right? Then in the second article, we'll start off with today's newspaper by understanding the Kaladan multi-modal transport project. Now, this is a transport project that India is constructing in Myanmar, and it will help Indian ports like Kolkata, like Visakhapatnam, to get connected to directly with Myanmar, and through that we can approach the northeastern part of our country. Therefore, Kaladan multimodal transport project becomes important for India, not just economically but also from strategic perspective. Therefore, this is also relevant from GS paper 2 and 3, that is deals with the international relations between India and Myanmar, and also it is an economic project, so therefore it is a part of infrastructure part in the economy paper. In the third article, we'll be covering the 101st mission of the Indian Space Research Organization. It is going to send an Earth observation satellite, and you understand recently Earth observation satellites played a very important role when India had to understand or make people know that they had actually attacked many air bases and terrorist locations in Pakistan. So how do you get pictures of these areas in different countries? Using your own Earth observation satellites, right? So therefore this kind of a mission becomes very important, and also the more important part is that this mission will use PSLV, which is an important satellite launch vehicle for India. So we'll understand the features of 101st mission and also of PSLV rocket. This is relevant again from GS paper 3, but the relevant part here is science and tech, okay? In the fourth article, which I have picked up from the editorial section, we'll be understanding why India needs to talk to Taliban. There are both normative as well as realistic arguments that are given here, so we'll understand both of them, and we'll try to understand. Earlier, India was having a hands-off approach towards Taliban. It did not wanted to engage with an organization that is known for its radical Islamism, that is known for its non-following of human rights. But now what has changed, that it has allowed India to interact closely with Taliban to protect its interest in the region of South Asia, right? So we'll try to understand this. This is relevant from GS paper 2 perspective, that is India and its neighborhood. The fifth article, also from the editorial section, it is the right reason to lower tariff. Well, India should lower tariff not because Donald Trump is saying us to. India should lower tariff because it wants to become a global manufacturing hub, and you can't become a global manufacturing hub if you try to protect your companies from external competition. Because on one hand, external competition primarily can be seen as a threat to domestic industries, but you also have to realize that domestic industries only thrive in an environment of competition. And how will you ensure competition? By lowering a tariff so that foreign products also come here and they compete directly with Indian products. So Indian companies will have no other option but to make their products better and more competitive. That is why we need to lower tariff. Therefore, this is an article relevant from GS paper 3. And in the last article, we'll be understanding the phenomenon of haze. And why are we covering haze? Because haze is something which is very much prominent in Delhi these days. Usually in the months of summer, you won't find haze so much, but there are certain conditions that have allowed to haze to form. So we'll try to understand what is haze, how is it different from other closely related weather phenomena like fog, like smog, okay? So these will be covering in our today's discussion. These are the 6 articles. Good evening, Yashi, Baga, Augustine, Amar, Bandhana, Reshma, good evening to you all. Now the notes for this session as usual will be available on my Telegram channel. This is called as ATS Live. So either you can search for ATS Live on the top right hand corner of your app, or you can also have an option to scan this QR code. It will take you directly to the channel. Now let us get going. Sarang, good evening. Let us get going with the first article of the day. This actually I've told you I picked up from yesterday's newspaper, and this was given in 7th page yesterday's newspaper. Now I understand many of you are must not be residing in Delhi, right? So you must be getting that local edition of your Indian Express newspaper. So sometimes what we witness is that the page numbers in the different editions are different. But rest assured, if the news article is covered in the Delhi edition, which I used to tell you the articles from the newspaper, that is more important. So even if it is not given in the newspaper, if you're watching it here, well enough, good enough, no need to read it again, okay? So we'll start off with this article. It tells us that the pumped hydropower project in the Nilgiris gets preliminary approval. Now, if you read the context of our today's article, that the expert panel of the Ministry of Environment, Forest Change, it has granted permission to carry out environmental impact assessment study for the proposed Upper Bhavani pumped hydropower project, which is located very close to Nilgiri Hills, and it is just 1 kilometer away from the Mukurthi National Park. So we'll try to understand Mukurthi National Park. Now you understand, whenever you are constructing a big infrastructure project, you have to understand its implication on the nearby environment. How will it affect ecology, how will it affect the people living there, and how will it affect the animals living in the region. So this study is called as environmental impact study, and this study tells the government, tells the relevant stakeholders the cost of undertaking the development, and we need to minimize the impact on the environment of such developmental projects, because we understand on one hand economic growth and development is necessary, but we can't ignore environment while undertaking development. So what we need is sustainable development, and therefore to ensure sustainable development, these kind of environmental impact studies are mandatory, created during the execution of any project. So in this regard, what becomes important from our today's discussion perspective? The protected area, that is Mukurthi National Park. Okay, now we'll be talking about this national park, Mukurthi National Park. This is a snapshot I've taken from the internet. Now the Mukurthi National Park is located in the western corner of the Nilgiri Plateau in the northwest corner of Tamil Nadu. Now if you look at the map, this is the Nilgiri area, and you can see the dominance of protected area in this area is so much. Now the Mukurthi National Park is located in the northwest corner of Tamil Nadu. This is the state of Tamil Nadu. Okay, southern part is here, Madurai, etc. They are here, not shown in the map. This is very near to Coimbatore and Kunnur, a very famous tourism location in Tamil Nadu. We are talking about this national park located here. Okay. Now the Mukurthi National Park is located in Nilgiri district of Tamil Nadu and within the larger Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Now why is Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve important? Because it forms a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now the reason for creation of this particular protected area was to protect the flagship species of the region, that is Nilgiri tar, which also acts as a keystone species. What is a keystone species? If you ensure protecting of this species, automatically the other species located in this protected area stays protected. So you need to take care of these species, and therefore they are called as keystone species. Now, whenever we are reading about a protected area, you almost every time you need to find out what are the major rivers or water bodies flowing through that particular national park. So in this regard, in Mukurthi National Park, Paikara and Kunda rivers flow through the park along with several perennial streams that originate in the park, and they drain into the Bhavani Puya river. Now Paikara river is sacred to the Toda tribe, which are inhabiting this particular national park. So which tribes lives in this national park? Toda tribe. Which are the rivers flowing through this national park? Paikara and Kunda rivers, and these drain into the larger Bhavani Puya river. Okay. Now another important facts about national park that you need to understand, it's the vegetation, it's the flora and the fauna. So let us start by understanding the dominant vegetation in the region. Now this area is characterized by montane grasslands and shrublands, which is interspread with sholas. Now sholas are the kind of vegetation that is dominant and prominent in the areas of Nilgiri. Now Nilgiri has a very different climate as against the entire state of Tamil Nadu. We understand Tamil Nadu has a tropical climate where even in the months of winters the temperature in the average in the state does not go below 20 to 23 degrees centigrade. But on the other hand, Nilgiris, they have very famous hill stations like Ooty, like Kunnur, and therefore the temperature that are prevailing in the region in Nilgiris are quite less, and it is dominating with a shola kind of river forest, shola kind of grasslands that are available in the high altitude regions of this Nilgiri area that has high amount of rainfall. So obviously the amount of greeneries in sholas are quite prominent. Now let us understand the kind of plants that are available in the region. First is the Gaultheria fragrantissima. Another one is helichrysum as well as Berberis tinctoria. So please remember these names. These are important, the ones that I've highlighted here. Now other plants that are also available, the more common ones are rhododendrons, cinnamon, mahonia, citrium and raspberries. Rhododendrons, you will find them in the mountainous regions. Okay. Now the more important part about this protected area is the fauna that is available or the animals that are available. Now the most important species obviously is the Nilgiri tar that I've told you. This is a keystone species of the protected area. Others include Nilgiri langur, Nilgiri marten. Marten is a kind of weasel. So Nilgiri marten is the kind of weasel that is exclusively available in the Nilgiri or particularly in the Mukurthi National Park, and this is a vulnerable species. Okay, now this is a kind of marten that usually resides on trees, but in order to find food and etc., they come to land, and also they are diurnal in nature. Diurnal means they are active during the day and they sleep at the night. Now other species that includes Indian elephant, Bengal tiger as well as bonnet macaque. What is more important and what we need to understand is the species Nilgiri tar, which is this animal. Okay, now as you can understand, this is basically a mountain goat. Okay, so let us understand important features of Nilgiri tar. So whenever I talk to you about any important species, we need to understand three important facts relating to that species: habitat, habits as well as protection status. So this Nilgiri tar is a form of mountain goat which is endemic to the western Ghats of India, and it is locally known as Varayadu in Tamil and Malayalam. Now the habitat of these species, it prefers mountain grasslands, particularly the Shola kind of grasslands ecosystem that are available at higher altitudes of 1200 to 2600 meters above sea level. Now the region or the protected area that has the highest amount of density of these species is not the Mukurthi National Park. It is the Iravikulam National Park located in the state of Kerala, and it has the highest density and the largest surviving population of Nilgiri tar. So if the question comes, Mukurthi National Park has the highest amount of Nilgiri tar everywhere in India, the answer would obviously be wrong because it is Iravikulam National Park. And this has the distinction of being called as the state animal of Tamil Nadu. That is, we are talking about Nilgiri tar. Now about the habits of this species. This is the only mountain ungulate in southern India, and this is one among the 12 species of mountain ungulate present in India. Now ungulate are the species that are herbivorous hoofed animals. What are hoofs? The kind of a leg that they have. Hoof, you understand, horse, cows etc., they have hoof. Now the grown up male of Nilgiri tar is known as saddleback due to the light colored patch on their back, right? Now the horn rings is also very prominent habit of Nilgiri tar. As you can see, these Nilgiri tar, they have horn rings here. Okay. Now these horn rings have a very important characteristic, that it is used to determine the age of the animal by counting the number of growth rings on their horn, which is very similar to the ones that you count on trees. That is, the age of the trees are determined by tree rings. Similarly, the age of Nilgiri tar is determined by the rings on their horns. Now the third important aspect is the protection status. Protection status is that in the IUCN it is categorized as endangered species. In India's Wildlife Protection Act 1972, it has the highest protection status of Schedule 1 species, which means hunting, capturing etc. illegal and will be punished severely. Similarly, the trade in this species is not permissible unless there is an exigent circumstances, because it is categorized in Appendix 1. So any species that is expected that if trade happens, they will become threatened, the trade in those species automatically becomes stopped, and they are called an Appendix 1 species and sites. Okay. So this is the we are going to talk about the Mukurthi National Park as well as Nilgiri tar. So there is this question which you need to solve. Good evening, first time watching this. Haukip, good. Maltosh, good evening. Anu, Sonu, Shushmita, good evening. Saikochon Haukip. I am unable to pronounce your name, so excuse me if I am getting your name wrong, Haukip, okay? Well, first, it is the only mountain ungulate found in India and is endemic to Western Ghats. Well, this is the only mountain ungulate found in South India. In India, there are 12 different species of mountain ungulate, okay? Now, its age can be determined with number of horn rings similar to the methods used for dating trees. This is correct, and it is listed as vulnerable in IUCN Red List and Schedule 1 under the WP Act. Incorrect, because it is listed as endangered species. Okay, so only second is right, therefore option B is the right answer. All of you have gotten this right. Bandana Sarang, please reread the question again. Third is incorrect because it is an endangered species. Okay. Now moving to the next article, this one is from today's newspaper on page 1. I am talking about Delhi edition. So, always when I tell the number of the pages or which page the article is found in, I am talking about Delhi edition. Okay, this is on the front page of the Delhi edition newspaper, and it talks about a new northeast link to Kolkata will be via sea, giving Bangladesh a mix. And why are they saying that? If you remember, the chief advisor to the Bangladeshi government, Mr. Mohammad Yunus, he had commented when he went to China that northeast is a landlocked region and they are dependent on Bangladesh to supply goods there. So this is the attitude these kind of people have. So let us tell what India is responding them with. Now India is constructing a 166.8 kilometer 4-lane highway alongside NH6 from Shillong to Silchar in the first high-speed corridor project of the northeast region. Now, this proposed highway from Shillong in Meghalaya to Silchar in Assam will become an extension of the key multimodal transport project in Myanmar. And which multimodal transport project I am talking about? Kaladan multimodal transport project. Okay. Now, this is an alternative link via sea between northeast states and Kolkata and bypasses entirely the country of Bangladesh. So let us understand how this project will be created. Now, if you can see from this map, it is quite clear from Kolkata port here, ships will ply to Sitwe port in Myanmar, and from Sitwe port, there will be a waterway connectivity to Paletwa here, and from that a road connectivity will connect it to Myanmar and India border located in Zoronpui, and from Zoronpui will be connected with Aizawl, the capital of Mizoram, and ultimately to Silchar and Shillong. So this Shillong to Silchar project is the newest addition in this link. Okay. Now let us talk about the Kaladan multimodal power project and why this Shillong Silchar is a key part in it. Now Shillong Silchar route is a significant because Silchar is an entry point for connecting Mizoram with Tripura, Myanmar, as well as the Barak Valley in Assam. So you'll see the area of Silchar is located here. Okay, so Silchar is located here, and Silchar is located here, and it connects Assam here, it connects Manipur here, it connects Mizoram here, and it connects Tripura here. So connectivity in Silchar and establishing a good transport hub in Silchar is very essential if you want to improve connectivity in the entire region of Northeast. So let us talk about Silchar here. Okay. Now Silchar is the entry point for connecting Mizoram, Tripura and Manipur as well as the Barak Valley of Assam, and thus it has become a major connectivity link for the entire northeast region, and it is an important milestone for developing the region as a gateway to India's Act East policy. India's Act East policy is India wants to have close relations with Southeast Asian countries starting from Myanmar, Thailand and otherwise to other countries in the region known as Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, etc. Right? So in that regard, this project becomes very important. Now this project would link India and Myanmar via the Bay of Bengal, and it was jointly identified by India and Myanmar to create a multimodal mode of transport of shipment of cargo from eastern ports of India, Kolkata, Vizag, etc. to Myanmar as well as ultimately to northeastern part of our country, and it is constructed by India under the grant in aid scheme. So India has not provided loans to Myanmar, rather India is saying we are giving you the money, using our money construct this project which will not be just beneficial for us but it will also be beneficial for Myanmar, right? Now in this regard, let us understand the components of this project. Now once completed, it will link Kolkata with Sitwe seaport in Rakhine state in Myanmar, primarily over the Bay of Bengal region covering over 500 kilometers. So the first link is between Kolkata to Sitwe, that is through the Bay of Bengal region. Okay. Now this region consists of 539 kilometers worth of waterway which is between Kolkata and Sitwe. Similarly, from Sitwe to Paletwa, a inland water river project over the river Kaladan will be constructed which will be over 158 kilometers in length, right? So, from Sitwe here to Paletwa, this is an inland river water project over the river Kaladan. That is why it is called as Kaladan multimodal river project. Okay. Now, the third component is from Paletwa to Indo-Myanmar border post in Myanmar, which is 110 kilometers long. So, here you can see from Paletwa here will be connected to Zorinpui, which is located on the borders between India and Myanmar in the state of Mizoram. And the fourth component will be from Zorinpui to Longtlai, right? So, the fourth component will be from Zongpui to Longtlai in Mizoram, and this will be about 100 kilometers long. So, these are the four components, and the newest addition to this will be the corridor between Shillong and Silchar, that is a road project over NH6. Okay. Now, let's see the significance of this project. First of all, this project will reduce the distance between Kolkata and Sitwe by approximately 1328 kilometers, and obviously when it reduces the distance, automatically it reduces the time taken to transport the cargo, and it will also reduce the cost of sending that cargo. So, this is the need of the hour. That is, earlier India is dependent on the narrow Siliguri corridor, which is a narrow piece of land separated only about 27 kilometers in wide. So, India has opened an alternative opportunity to send goods and services to the areas of northeast, that is through seaport. Okay. Another one is that India will connect Sitwe port in Myanmar with Indo-Myanmar border, and it will contribute to economic development of the northeastern states of India by opening a sea route for our products. So, this is the two benefits, that is economic benefits, but the more important part is the strategic benefits of this project. First of all, it will provide an alternative for us to Siliguri corridor, which is also known as chicken's neck because it is only 27-kilometer long corridor. And this will lead to enhanced India's control over its northeast frontier and reduce logistical vulnerabilities. Right now, what we were doing, we were sending goods over inland through Bangladesh. So, it increased our dependence on Bangladesh. But now we have seen that due to changing political circumstances in Bangladesh, the current dispensation in Bangladesh is not amenable to India's interest. So, therefore, having an alternative serves very good for us. And with the help of Kaladan project, cargo will reach from Indian ports like Vizag, like Kolkata to northeastern region without being dependent on Bangladesh. So, you were saying now, northeast is a landlocked region, jokes on him. So, this would also enhance India's strategic footprint in the broader East Asia region and more importantly in our immediate neighborhood. And ultimately, I have told you what is India's policy with respect to Southeast Asian countries, that is Act East policy, right? So, this will also strengthen our Act East policy. Yes, it will help with maritime security also. See, when trade with Myanmar, also it will impact Myanmar. So, Myanmar will also be careful to ensure security in the region. So, trade itself actually betters the relation between any country because trade is something which not just benefits me, but it also benefits you. So, both of our interest, especially when money is involved, people will take care of everything. Now, this is the question that you need to solve. See, you go to any alien land, even if you don't know their language, automatically they will understand the money part. Say how much money? They say 5, they say 10, they say okay, this much trade happens. So, even if you are not able to talk in their language, you can talk money wise. With reference to Kaladan multi-modal transport project, consider the following statement. The project seeks to connect eastern India state of Mizoram to the Bay of Bengal via both inland and road transport. The second is project passes through Myanmar but does not involve any port infrastructure. This is obviously incorrect. We are constructing port where? In Sitwe region. First one is correct. The Kaladan project is a key component of India's Act East policy and aims to reduce our dependence on Siliguri corridor for connectivity to northeast. So, second and third correct, first isn't. Option B is the right answer. Sorry, my mistake, not option B. Option A is the right answer. Why? Because second is correct, first one is right. Sorry, second is incorrect. I don't know where my mind is today, okay? Yes. Option C. Now, let us move back to the third article. This article appeared in the page 11 of the newspaper and it talks about ISRO's 101st mission. Okay. Yes, option C is correct. Yes, option C. Now, this is on page 11 and it talks about ISRO's 101st mission. Now, ISRO will launch an Earth Observation Satellite EOS-09 on board of its workhorse Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle PSLV, and this will be done tomorrow early morning. Now, this is the only spaceport that is located in Andhra Pradesh, Sriharikota. From there, the launch will be made. Now, let us understand the payload of this mission, that is known as the Earth Observation 9 satellite. Now, this is a mission which has a lifetime of 5 years and it will carry a satellite with the synthetic aperture radar payload. Now, the benefit of having a synthetic aperture radar payload is that you can observe the Earth from satellite under any circumstances. So, even if there is rainfall, there is cloud, you can observe the Earth. And this kind of Earth observation capabilities are important manifold. You can not just use Earth observation for agriculture and other related activities, but we see military importances so much as we saw during Operation Sindoor. So, the satellite, which is a repeat of EOS-4 satellite which was launched back in 2022, it has been designed with improvement in the frequency of observation. So, basically this satellite has the ability to map higher amount of areas in a lesser amount of time. And this satellite will be placed in which kind of an orbit? In sun synchronous polar orbit. And what is the characteristic of sun synchronous polar orbit? Here the satellite would pass over a given place of land on the same time every day. So, this is the benefit of you placing a particular satellite in the sun synchronous polar orbit. What happens to satellite after 5 years? I'll tell you. Patience, beta, patience. Now, the satellite, it will carry fuel that will be reserved even for deorbiting, right? So, what will happen after the end of the life of the satellite after 5 years? The fuel that will be kept in reserve in the satellite will be used to lower its orbits in a manner so that it enters the Earth's atmosphere, and when it enters the Earth's atmosphere, it will always face friction and resistance from the Earth atmosphere, and in the period of 2 years, it will automatically burn out. So, this will make this mission a debris-free mission. So, no residue will be left after the completion of this mission. Now, the fuel on board of the fourth stage of the launch vehicle, that is PSLV, will also be removed in line with international guidelines, because the increasing problem with the Earth observation and satellites that we deploy in so much high numbers is that there will be a lot of satellites remaining in the Earth's orbit after a few period of time. So, what will happen? There will be a congestion in our Earth. And what happens if two satellites collide? Obviously, the debris will be spread across the nation, across the space, and it will obviously be harmful to the other satellites and space objects that are flying there. So, we need to eliminate the space debris, and this is one of the ways which you can do it by letting the Earth's atmosphere burn that particular satellite down. So, it has been recommended that you need stored fuel to be removed from spacecrafts or upper stage of launch vehicle to ensure that there is no accidents, that the breakup of satellite in space and it can create more debris. So, we need to eliminate this problem. So, we are first letting our satellite burn after the end of its life, and we are also disposing of the fuel that will be remnant in the last stage of the PSLV satellite. Understood? So, what this happens to the satellite after 5 years. Understood, Baga? Now, the significance of this mission is another significance is there, because this is the only second PSLV that we know that has been assembled in the ISRO's new payload integration facility. Earlier, what used to happen, that the launch vehicles, they were assembled in the launch pad itself, but you understand, assembling a launch vehicle takes a lot of days. So, this means another launch couldn't happen from that particular launch site. So, now when we are integrating and assembling this satellite, this launch vehicle elsewhere, this would allow the integration of launch vehicle to happen in separate facility, and then will be moved by mobile launch tower to the liftoff area. Now, this leaves the launch pad free for other launches. So, this is why ISRO has created another facility where the integration assembly of the launch vehicle will take place. It will be brought to the launch pad and ultimately it will be launched in the space, right? So, ultimately this is being done because slowly by slowly the number of launches that we are doing every year from ISRO, it is increasing. So, we need to keep the launch pad empty at most of the times. Now, let us talk about the workhorse that was mentioned in the article, that is PSLV rocket. Now, PSLV was developed by ISRO and it has been in work since 1994 and it has launched and it has made more than 60 flights till now. Primarily, it was developed to launch remote sensing satellites into sun synchronous orbit, but with significant iterations afterwards, we have seen that the capacity and ability of PSLV has grown. Now it can even launch small satellites into higher orbits like geostationary transfer orbits. Okay. Now this is a launch vehicle made up of 4 stages of rockets. First and third stage, you can see they are powered by solid fuels, and second and fourth stage, these are powered by liquid fuels. So the stages of rocket, as I have told you, it is a 4-stage rocket which uses an alternate combination of liquid and solid fuels. First and third stages are solid, second and fourth are liquids powered. Now additional thrust is needed in the first stage itself, because rocket, it needs to overcome the air resistance, and also the weight of the rocket is highest at the ground level, right? So there are additional thrusters that are attached to it in the first stage. Now this is not the part of first stage. These are additional solid fuel thrusters that you attach to the rockets. You can attach 2, you can attach 4 as per the needs of the mission, right? So this is why additional thrusters needs to be added into the first stage, and these are strap-on motors that are used, and they are solid stage rockets, and it provides additional thrust to the rockets during the time of launch. So please do not mistake it as an additional stage. It is ultimately a 4-stage rocket. Now the PSLV, it can deliver payloads up to 3,250 kilometers in low Earth orbit, up to 1,600 kilometers in higher sun synchronous orbit, and in 1,400 kilometers worth of payload to the highest amount of orbit that it can transfer the go to, that is geosynchronous transfer orbit. And the significance of PSLV is that it has been a leading provider of ride-share services to small satellites, be it Indian-made satellites or foreign satellites, and we have seen more than 100 satellites are being sent in one missions of these PSLV at one go at multiple times. And the notable payloads that it has taken to space includes Chandrayaan-1, it includes Mangalyaan, Astrosat, as well as the recently launched Aditya L1 mission. So this is how the PSLV acts as the workhorse of ISRO. Because of that, ISRO trusts it so much, it has sent important payloads like Chandrayaan-1, like Mangalyaan with it also, right? Now let's see if you are able to solve this particular question. Well, this is obviously incorrect. Only to sun synchronous, no, it can even launch it to higher geostationary transfer orbits. Second one, it is used to launch interplanetary missions like Mars orbiter mission. Correct. PSLV is a 4-stage rocket vehicle powered entirely by solid fuel. Incorrect. It is powered by solid fuel and also by liquid fuel in different stages. What are the different stages? I have told you. So only second is correct. Option B is the right answer. Okay. Now, in PSLV, we are talking about just one rocket of ISRO. What about GSLV? What about the newer development rocket that are undertaken by ISRO currently, SSLV and GLV, right? That we deal entirely in the foundation batches, and currently the May evening batches has been started from 15th, and you can still take admissions in this batch. What you need to do? You need to go to our website first. Click on StudyIQ IS here. After going to our website, you need to click on Explore Courses. Suppose if you want to take admissions to the batches that are available exclusively in English, what you need to do, click on this tile, UPSC IS English. The left tile here is the one that says Foundation 2026 May evening batch. Now, right now you can see this course, that is the Diamond batch, which has all the benefits provided in the StudyIQ platform. This is available at 40,999. But let me tell you a way where you can get this batch even at a discounted rate. How to get that? Click on Buy Now here. When you click on Buy Now, this window opens and this asks you to add a promo code. Click on Add Promo Code, and here please write ATS Live. So when you write ATS Live, click Apply, and you will see that the discount of 7,000 rupees is now applied, and the course fees of Diamond falls to 33,999. Similarly, for Platinum, it falls to 29,999, and for Gold, it is 19,999. But you'll get these rates only after application of the code ATS Live, and my recommendation to you is take the Diamond batch because it has all the benefits that are provided in the StudyIQ IS platform, as you can see from here. Only some, not all, are provided in gold and platinum, but you can be assured diamond will provide you every benefit. This includes Margdarshan by faculties. This includes full refund in case you clear prelims. So the amount of course fees that you'll pay, and if you clear prelims, you will be refunded with the money entirely. Similarly, if you top the monthly test, you'll be rewarded financially in terms of 11,000 rupees, and you are also getting prelims and mains residential program, where you will be brought to Delhi and each and every expenses of yours will be taken care of, be it studying, be it food, be it residence, everything will be taken care of by StudyIQ. Okay. Now moving to the next article, some advice on CSAT maths part, where what is your education background? Quickly, Baga Spinks. Well, humanities है ना, तो get a R.S. Agarwal book known as Quantitative Aptitude. Okay, solve that first. If you are able to solve it, that provides chapters very wellly arranged. Yes, that provides chapter which is very wellly arranged, and you can, even if you have undertaken maths until 10th class, na, you'll be able to solve them. It teaches you quite well, and the levels of question in that book is also good. So take R.S. Agarwal, Quantitative Aptitude, solve that first, and you'll be more comfortable. Okay. Now moving to the discussion, this talks about talking to Taliban, the normative aspects of the syllabus, and it is on the editorial section, that is on page 12 of the Delhi edition. Now this article actually talks about that talking to Taliban, that is India is engaging with Taliban, it should not be seen as an endorsement of the autocratic regime that is Taliban, but rather it should be seen as a calibrated engagement which is focusing on India's ensuring its regional security. So let us understand the background of this issue. Now you understood earlier US had actually occupied Taliban in 2001 due to its war of terror, right? And after that US decided to leave Taliban abruptly in 2021 due to the policies of then President Joe Biden. Now when after the US left Afghanistan, Taliban took over Afghanistan in August 2021, and India was in a very big cause of concern because earlier India had not engaged with Taliban, and accordingly when Taliban took control of Afghanistan, New Delhi withdrew its ambassador to Afghanistan, and also the entire diplomatic staff from Kabul, they were evacuated, and India also suspended any direct engagement with the government of Afghanistan. Because why? Because Taliban were overruling it. Now in that regard, traditionally India and Afghanistan have shared a very close ties, and this was the norm with exception of when Taliban earlier was in power between 1996 and 2001, and at that time India saw Taliban as a proxy of the Pakistan strategic interests. So even during the hijack of IC-814 flight that was coming from Kathmandu to Delhi, it was hijacked, and you must have seen the images where the Talibani cadres, they were surrounding the plane so that Indian special forces don't attack the plane, right? So this is how India saw Taliban actually doing the bid for Pakistan. But recently I have to seen a very big shift has happened in the region. That is, the relations between Taliban and Pakistan have deteriorated rapidly, and not just deteriorated rapidly, currently it is soured, and it is primarily driven by the operations of Tehreek-e-Taliban, which is the Pakistani franchisee of Taliban. It is operating alongside the Afghani-Pakistan border, and it is responsible for conducting many terrorist attacks in Pakistan. So now the Pakistan's chickens, they have come home to roost, right? So this is why the situation now is changing. Now realizing that it does not hold any control over Taliban, that is Pakistan, Pakistan has begun to drive a wedge between the relations that existed before between India and Afghanistan. Now, amid the widening rift between Taliban and Pakistan, India needs to keep its communication lines with Afghanistan and Taliban open. First of all, why? So that the region of Afghanistan does not become a sanctuary to anti-India terror-based groups. So we need to have a working arrangement with Taliban, and that is why India is now interacting more and more with Taliban. Earlier it was having a very hands-off approach. Now realizing that its no-talk policy with Taliban, it has become impractical now, India started gradually to open the lines of communication. This started with India's joint secretary responsible for Taliban meeting the representatives of Taliban in third country, that is Qatar. Similarly, reopening of Indian embassy happened in 2024, and this was followed by a public meeting in January that happened between India's foreign secretary and the Afghani acting foreign minister Amir Khan Muttaqi, and this meeting happened in Dubai. Now, after this, there was recently the first ever ministerial level conversation that happened between Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is India's external affairs minister, and the external affairs minister of the Taliban, Muttaqi. So, they met and they talked, sorry, they did not meet, they talked over the phone. And this was seen as a next logical step when India is trying to increase its outreach with Taliban. And this phone call actually was also significant from India's foreign policy perspective, because we have portrayed and we have seen Taliban as an organization that furthers the terror mindset, which furthers radical Islam. But to our surprise, the Taliban government has actually condemned the incidents that happened in Pahalgam terror, which killed many people in India, as much as 26 people. So this condemnation by the Taliban regime of a terrorist attack that happened in India and it emerged from Pakistan, this actually increased the level of trust between these two regimes, that is in New Delhi and in Kabul, right? So this is how slowly by slowly, in our interest, we are increasing engagement with Taliban. Now, recent developments is that since 2021, India has been regularly delivering many benefits to people in Afghanistan, because India's foreign ministry has said we may or may not engage with government of Afghanistan, but we are forever with the people of Afghanistan. So in that regard, India has delivered wheat, pesticides, medical supplies and other forms of aid, even medicines and vaccines to Afghanistan. And in the budget of last year, Indian government made an allocation of 100 crores worth of assistance to be made to Afghanistan. So this is seen that India is trying to play a long game in the region by increasing its interaction with Taliban, so that India's interest in the region does not suffer. Okay. Similarly, whether we should engage with Taliban or not, there are two perspectives in this regard. First is known as an idealist perspective, and let us understand what idealist perspective tells us to. It says that Taliban continues to be an autocratic regime which has a very little regard for ideas like human rights, especially catering to rights of women. It does not allow women to hold offices in the country. Women, they do not have equal rights to men in Afghanistan, which is ruled by Taliban. And this goes against India's own governmental and constitutional values. So therefore, India, you will see, is yet to officially recognize the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. And if India continues to increase its engagement, it will undermine India's moral stand in the world, because India on one hand promotes democratic values, it promotes equality, it promotes fraternity. None of these are present in Afghanistan, which is ruled by Taliban. Now, this is an idealistic perspective which thinks Indian foreign policy is ideal. But you have to understand, in foreign policy, there is no permanent friend, there is no permanent enemy. Only thing that is permanent is a national interest. So in that regard, let us understand what the realists think about this issue. Now, realists think that China has signed a significant investment and security arrangements with Taliban, which includes a $540 million oil extraction deal in Afghanistan. Now, with power politics in South Asian region giving the growing comfort between China, Pakistan and Bangladesh, so a Kabul and Beijing entente, which is increased cooperation between Kabul and Beijing, it is a matter of concern for India. So in that regard, although India does not have the power to change the politics in Afghanistan and society, but it has the power to at least deal with whoever is sitting in Kabul. And who is sitting in Kabul right now? This is the regime called as Taliban. So in that regard, we need to engage with whoever is sitting at the throne of Kabul. And this is what realist perspective of the issue talks about. Okay. Now let us move to another article. This one appeared on the same page, on page 12, and it talks about the right reason why India should lower tariff. Now let us understand the context of this discussion. It talks about that India should lower tariffs and allow greater import competition for its own sake, and not because President Trump is saying us to do so. And why does it say that? Let us understand this. Now, what is happening that the US president recently, he told the Apple CEO to not make its iPhone in India, but you understand Apple is a global company. Its policies and its decisions of economic identity, it depends not on US politics but on its own interest. So you'll see that Apple currently makes 40 of the total 220 million iPhones that it sold in world market, and 40 million of these are made in India. Now, Apple is not going to just make these phones, it is going to increase the manufacturing of the phones in India because of its intention to expand the operations because India provides a cost competitive manufacturing and assembly in India, and also because Apple wants to diversify its supply chain away from China because of many strategic and economic reasons. So in that regard, India has become a global alternative where global companies should increase their manufacturing. Now, India's focus in this regard should be on making itself as a preferred investment destination for all global companies and not just Apple, because companies are moving away from China due to what is known as China plus one strategy. They have become understood that they can't be solely dependent on China and they need to go to other countries, and here India is at the pole position. This would mean we need to go beyond assembly and create a full-fledged manufacturing ecosystems. There are many fields where we have a full-fledged manufacturing ecosystem, particularly the automotive sector. Here the most of the raw materials that are used by automotive companies, these are manufactured in India. So when we can do it for automotives, why can't we do it for phones, computers and consumer electronics, right? In our previous discussion, I've already told you that although India is one of the major assembly of mobile phones here, but only the amount of value addition that is done in India is about 15 to 20%. Now government wants to make it to double, that is to 30 and 40% of value addition. And this means that our manufacturing sector is expected to grow, and here that would mean that India then would become a destination where other companies also would start to invest. Now, in this regard, what should India do? Now, this requires that India needs economies of scale. What is economies of scale? That is, when you start manufacturing large amount of items, the cost of manufacturing per item becomes less, right? So, this is what India can do, and why India should do it, because not just India is one of the largest domestic market, but India should also make it for exports to other countries, and therefore operational scale up can only happen when we cater to not just domestic market but also to global market, and therefore other companies like Apple, like Samsung, they need to assemble and manufacture their mobile phones in India. Now, what should India do? It says that in India's economic history, both in post and pre-reform period, it has provided us enough evidence that India grows only when it displays openness in trade and open to foreign trade and investment. So this should be the idea, that government should reduce tariff, government should allow foreign investment to happen, so that not just funds come but also the technology from outside company comes, and lowering tariffs and allowing greater import competition is the way to go. Because what was the reason why we increased tariffs is to protect domestic companies, right? But while protecting domestic companies, we have seen that protectionism has led to bad qualities of Indian product. For example, you must have known that earlier scooters available in India were just made by Bajaj. So there was this famous design flaw that when the scooters were not starting, you have to tilt that scooter a little bit so that the fuel starts to flow into carburetor and then your scooter start. So it was not a feature, it was a design fault. But Bajaj had no competition in the market, so it carried with this design fault for many decades. So you can imagine, can a design fault exist in today's market? No, because other products you will buy, right? So this was the part where, due to increased tariff and less competition in Indian market, it led to protectionism, and this protectionism automatically harmed the development of competition and newer products. So we need to lower tariffs and we need to increase competition so that our domestic companies become competitive and they just not sell products to Indian market, but they also sell products to other markets. Understood? Any doubts? Let us move to the last article of the day. This appeared in page 6 and it talks about rain and gusty winds in NCR. Now, the question won't appear on NCR, but let us understand the concept that has been highlighted in this article. Now, this says that a day after most of Delhi NCR woke up to a thick haze following a dust surge, a particulate matter pollution in the capital, it continued to remain above permissible levels on Friday. And as I was coming to office on Saturday, this continues even today. Now, strong winds carried dust from Pakistan towards northwest India and to Delhi NCR on Thursday night, leading to plunging visibility in multiple locations. So, what we are going to understand is the phenomena known as thick haze. Okay. Now, what is this haze? It is an atmospheric phenomena where fine dust, smoke and other dry particles, what you need to understand, dry particles, they become suspended in the air and automatically the clarity or the visibility of air suffers. Now, there is a similar term that you may have heard in winter months especially, that is fog. So, how is fog and haze different? Now, they have one thing in common, that they both reduce visibility, but they differ in terms of the composition and how they affect light. For example, fog is a cloud at a ground level which is composed of tiny water droplets or even in some cases in very cold areas, ice crystals. So, this means water is present in one form or the other in fog. But while you understand haze, it is a suspension of dry solid particles like dust and smoke. It does not have water at all. So, fog is wet, haze is dry. Understood the difference? Now, let us understand how is haze different than smog. What is smog? Smog is the combination of smoke and fog. So, smog is a combination of smoke form and it includes a mixture of gases, chemicals and pollutants. Whereas we have already understood haze is generally dry, while smog involves moisture in one form or the other in form of condensation. So, here also smog includes water, haze does not. Now, composition of haze and smog is also different. Haze, it primarily consists of dust, that is particular matters, whereas smog, it contains wider range of pollutants. It includes gases and chemicals also. So, this is the difference between haze and smog. Understood? Now, let us understand what causes haze. First is natural sources. It can be caused due to wind-blown dust, as it has happened as wind and dust from Pakistan. So, here is also Pakistan trying to disturb us. It can't fight us with missiles, so it is fighting us with dust. So, fine soil particles carried by the wind can cause smoke from wildfires, which is produced during forest fires and land fires, also causes haze. Similarly, volcanic ash, that is when fine particles from volcanic ash they ejected into the air, that can also cause haze, and sea salt also in coastal areas, it causes haze. So, this is all our natural sources. Now, let us understand man-made sources also, that is combustion of fossil fuels, emission for vehicles, power plants and industrial facilities. They release particulate matter, both PM10 and PM2.5. These particulate matters are exhaust are emitted quite a lot and it also causes haze. Similarly, industrial processes as well as agricultural activities like stubble burning, ploughing, etc. in dry condition, they can cause release of dust and smoke, which ultimately leads to haze. Understood the difference between haze and fog and haze and smog? You have any doubt? Now is the right time to answer. Otherwise, you can go ahead and solve this particular question quickly. You understand what is dew point? Dew point is the point or temperature where water becomes or air becomes saturated with water. So, dew point is the temperature where the air can consist of highest amount of water. So, first statement here is correct. Smog is strictly an urban phenomenon and can't occur in rural areas due to absence of vehicular emissions. This is incorrect. I told you smog has other vehicular emissions also or other kinds of emissions also. So, chemical release from agricultural burning, they can also create smog. So, it is an incorrect statement. Unlike fog, haze is primarily caused by scattering of sunlight due to solid particles rather than water droplets. This is the correct statement. Understood? So, option C is the right answer. Sorry, not C. Again, I am incorrect. Option D is the right answer. Okay. So, this brings an end to our session. You can download the notes from ATS Live. We'll see each other again on Monday. Okay. So, please have a very good weekend. This is all from my side for today. Yes, doubt regarding yesterday. Wasn't the old PLFS better to check unemployment considering usual status with respect to current weekly status? Well, suppose in months also the economic has become so dynamic, particularly due to gig economy, we need to ascertain monthly levels of unemployment also. So, when we are talking about current weekly status, actually monthly is better, because in gig economy what happens? You are employed in 5 days a week, you might not be employed 10 days in another week or in another part of the month. So how would you ascertain their employment level? So that is why you need to conduct monthly surveys. So have a better idea. Understood, Dipanshi? So let's conclude our today's session now. Any doubts if you have, please message me in the group. I'll solve it there. Okay. So bye bye.